Hi guys, this is Mrs. Powers and I'm here again this week with your history lesson. We are on lesson 24. We're on lesson 24 this week, but I want to quickly review your pretest number 8 with you. So pull out your pretest number 8, or you can just listen to the question and try to answer it. So let's start with question number 3. Number 3 says, according to legend, Arthur became king when he drew me out of a stone. What am I? A sword. According to Joseph of Arimathea, I was used to collect some of the blood of Christ. What am I? Holy Grail. Okay, and number 5, I was the unfaithful queen of King Arthur. Who am I? Guinevere. Okay, and then we will come back to this one and finish up 6, 7, and 8 after we read our lesson number 24, okay? So turn on your ears and let's listen. Justinian I and Theodora, rulers of the Byzantine Empire. Before I can tell you about an interesting couple that ruled the Byzantine Empire, you must first know what the Byzantine was. The name is a little confusing, so we'll start there. The Byzantine Empire was the name given to the Eastern Roman Empire. Now you may be wondering where the Eastern Roman Empire came from, since we recently studied the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Well, as you may recall, the Roman Empire was first divided into the East and the West under Diocletian in AD 284. Remember, we learned about that in lesson 13. Then it was put back together as one empire under Constantine the Great in 324. That was in lesson 14. Constantine is the one who moved the capital of Rome to the ancient city of Byzantium and named it Constantinople. Well, after Constantine died, the Roman Empire split again in 395. This time, the Eastern Roman Empire acquired the name of the Byzantine Empire because of the ancient city of Byzantium. So that explains the name given to the Byzantine Empire. Did you follow all that? I hope so. Of course, the Western Roman Empire did collapse in 476 from all kinds of problems and invasions, but there were thousands of Romans who remained in the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantine, unlike the Western Roman Empire. The Byzantine was strong and healthy, and it remained so for centuries to come. Now, with that bit of geography behind us, let's look at Justinian I and Theodora. These are the names of a Byzantine king and queen who ruled the empire for almost 40 years, from 527 to 565. Because of their backgrounds, both were fortunate to ever have become royalty. Justinian I. Justinian was born of a peasant family with hardly a thought for one day becoming a king, but Justinian's uncle happened to be one of the Western Roman emperors before that empire collapsed. He had no sons to replace him, so, as a youth, Justinian was taken to the emperor's court to be trained as a ruler. With Rome falling apart, Justinian's future was uncertain, but the way things worked out, he was moved east and declared emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantine. When it came to learning, Justinian was a very disciplined young man. He loved to study. Without eating or sleeping, Justinian would sometimes read for hours into the night and still rise early to conduct business. His interests were in law, poetry, architecture, theology, philosophy, and music, all great things for a king to know. Justinian was even disciplined in what he ate. Unlike most kings who could indulge on almost anything they wanted, Justinian's diet was mainly that of a vegetarian. He also fasted for periods of time throughout his life. That means that he would choose not to eat at all in order to dedicate himself to prayer and meditation. Though Justinian was certainly to be admired for his self-discipline, not everyone respected him as a king. His critics accused him of being wishy-washy on political matters. That means he would sometimes say one thing but do another, and he seldom, if ever, went to the battlefield, which made him appear weak and cowardly. Probably one of now we're going to talk about Theodora. Probably one of Justinian's greatest strengths turned out to be his wife, Theodora. She was a good queen and very involved in the running of the empire. It is amazing, though, that she ever became a queen. Theodora was born on the island of Cyprus as the daughter of a bear trainer in a circus. After years of unsettled circus life, she went into acting. Unfortunately, she also led a rather lewd and immoral life as a young woman. Though she wasn't married, Theodora gave birth to a child. In time, however, Theodora settled down. She made a meager but respectful living spinning wool in the city of Constantinople. As fate would have it, Justinian somehow met the poor, hard-working Theodora. Though she was an unlikely candidate for queen, he fell in love with her. Like a fairy tale come true, there is no doubt that Theodora's beauty and charm changed the course of her life. The historian Prosopius said this of Theodora when describing a statue of her: "It is beautiful, but still inferior to the beauty of the empress, for to express her loveliness in words, or to portray it as a statue, would be altogether impossible for a mere human being." I think you might get the picture. Theodora must have been gorgeous, which helped her to catch the eye of the king. The story is a bit like that of Cinderella. The Nicaea riot. Theodora was not only a beauty, she was apparently brave and smart as well. Early in Justinian's reign, a riot broke out in Constantinople in 532. Theodora helped to settle it. It seems there was fighting in the streets between the Blues and the Greens. Those were the names of the groups that developed from people dressing in the colors of their favorite jockeys. Jockeys were horse racers, and yes, there were riots over sporting events even way back then. The rioting got so bad that fires broke out. A famous church named St. Sophia was destroyed, and the emperor's palace was attacked. People ran through the streets yelling Nicaea, which meant victory. So the incident has been remembered as the Nicaea riot. Well, it was in Justinian's feeble character to hide in the palace and to try to escape the rioting crowds. Remember that he wasn't the kind of king that spent time on the battlefield. It was the more courageous Theodora who persuaded Justinian to remain in Constantinople and take control of the situation. Justinian listened to her advice and put his best general, Belisarius, on the job. To gain back the city, Belisarius had 30,000 people killed in a public arena. It was a terrible massacre that ended the rioting. With the Nicaea riot behind them, Justinian and Theodora proceeded to rule the Byzantine Empire with great confidence. They started with repairing buildings damaged from the riots. Justinian poured himself into making Constantinople one of the most spectacular cities in the world. Of most significance, Justinian claimed that he would rebuild the Cathedral of St. Sophia to be even more glorious than Solomon's Temple. He just about did it too. St. Sophia is one of the greatest works of Byzantine architecture ever constructed. With walls of marble, numerous mosaics, and precious stones placed in the door, the cathedral rises toward the sky in the shape of a cross. It is covered by huge, majestic domes measured 185 feet high and 100 feet in diameter. When the cathedral was completed on December 26, 587, Justinian walked to the pulpit of the magnificent structure and said, "Glory be to God who has thought me worthy to accomplish so great a work. O Solomon," hi baby Piper. "O Solomon, I have vanquished you. Excuse me." Though full of pride, he knew he had done a great thing. Both Justinian and Theodora loved the wealth and splendor of being king and queen, maybe because they grew up with so little. They were well known for dressing extravagantly with pearls, jewels, crowns, and robes. Justinian enjoyed the ceremony of entering and exiting events with a great show. He went so far as to require his guests to kiss the hem of his long purple robe or kiss his toes. The Justinian Code. Despite being showy, Justinian proved to be a capable leader. He is best remembered for updating a code of laws. These laws bear his name and are called the Justinian Code. They were basically an updated version of earlier Roman laws. Some of the laws were good ones that helped people, such as slaves and women, who have better legal rights. Theodora had a lot to do with the recognition and education of women. Many of the laws reflected Justinian's own belief in Christianity. For example, it became law that judges were to swear an oath of honesty on a Bible before every trial. We see a similar procedure in courtrooms today. However, the penalties for breaking some of the laws were harsh and over time were ignored for being extreme. For example, adultery was punishable by death, as was homosexuality, sorcery, and desertion from the army. A particularly cruel penalty was that of bodily mutilation. People could lose a nose, hand, tongue, or their eyes for certain crimes. As you can see, the Justinian Code was strict and conservative, but Justinian was wise when he wrote that a ruler should be armed with law as well as glorified with arms, or weapons, that there may be good government in times both war and of peace. The other words Justinian saw that a civilized government was as valuable as a strong army. In a time of much fighting and feudalism in Europe, this concept made the Byzantine Empire a special place and provided much stability for its citizens. Well, now you know about the lives of two more famous people, Justinian I and Theodora. Though an unlikely pair for king and queen, they greatly shaped the Byzantine Empire in their style, their beliefs, and their laws. The solid foundation they laid probably helped the Byzantine Empire remain intact for centuries to come. All right, let's take a look at our final 3 questions for pretest number 8. Number 6. Though I grew up a peasant, I became the king of the Byzantine Empire. Who am I? Justinian. Yay. All right, number 7. I grew up in the circus and became a queen. Who am I? Theodora. And number 8. I was built to be more magnificent than the Temple of Solomon. What am I? The Cathedral of St. Sophia. All right, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed your lesson today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.